Welcome back, and on today's show, The Fakers, we've been discussing honesty. Now, joining us in the studio is psychotherapist Vasia Toxavidi. Welcome, Vasia.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, don't be nervous, just chat to us. You know, we all love talking, so yeah, as lots of women do. So you specialise in the field of human relationships, is that right? So what made you choose something like that?
Well, you know, since I was young, I was always interested very much about human, you know, what makes human respond in the way they do, behave in the way they do, and that led me to study psychology. Now, through my experience in that field and my working experience, I realized that if it's not 100%, at least 85% of someone's happiness in life is determined by the relationships they have with other people. So, because I think people, they become who they are, they evolve through the interactions with other people. And as social beings, they grow and develop through others. So this is what made me fascinated by seeing that, by seeing people, how everything they talk about, everything they bring is based around the relationships they have with other people. The way they create their identity, their self-image, I think is determined by the reactions they have from others. And if you think about it, if somebody, you know, achieves all the material goods, everything, if they cannot share that with the people they care about, perhaps that would not make them as happy. So there is something about relationship which I think is at the core of the human psychology.
I'm going to throw a question at you, Vasia. Why do you think people struggle to be honest in their relationships?
Well, there are many different things, many different reasons, but what we have to think about is that a relationship is two people. And I always like to see it as a dance, as a tango. You know, if you think tango, two people make it happen. So if one partner is not accepting the other person, is very judgmental, so that would influence how honest the other person is. So it's something around always to keep that in mind, that it's two people. So I think one of the main issues why somebody will struggle to be honest in a relationship is about low self-esteem and low self-love. So if somebody does not believe in themselves, does not have confidence in themselves, so they don't really care about themselves as much, so they will wear a mask in the relationship because they will be afraid to show who they are, to show vulnerabilities, because of fear of being rejected, abandoned. Also have to say that all this, you know, it's very deep-rooted in the way people grow up. If they have been rejected through they were children, so that will have something to do with some honesty and how they cope with how they are in the relationships.
So is that why, sorry then, that people, so psychotherapists or people going for therapy and things like that, they keep going back to the past for these behaviours that people then display today because of the interactions that they've had causing, like you said, the rejection, and that then might make them reenact those behaviours later on?
I think it's very important. I think part of every therapy, it is to go a little bit back at the past, because, you know, I think a lot of the things we bring into our relationship has to do with how we used to relate with our parents. Sometimes an unconscious process, but it does affect a lot of how people behave during adulthood. Another issue I think that would be why people struggle with being honest is perhaps about the individuality. So when people get together into a relationship, they will think that now great, now we're going to do everything together. We're going to go places together, we're going to do everything together. But they do forget that before they got into the relationship, they were two different individuals. They had their own lives. So one person might have a lot, that sense of, I want to keep my individuality, but the other person might not. So that person might actually struggle to be honest and say, look, this is it, because the other person might not be able to accept. So again, it's a lot about what I said. It's about the two people, the two people together, that it depends how honest, you know, people can be and why some people might struggle more than others.
That's interesting what you're saying there, but how would you know if your partner is lying to you?
Well,
what are the signs?
There could be different signs. I mean, if somebody would come and tell me that, you know, I want to know the signs, one of my clients, I would say, what makes you suspicious about it? Because obviously you have intuition, you know something about it. There could be different signs. I think one of the main signs is an avoidance. You know, people will avoid that sense of intimacy, either physical intimacy, sexual intimacy, and also they will try to redirect the focus. So, for example, they will start working more, being out with their friends. If there are children, the focus will be redirected on the children. And then there will be mood swings a lot, anger, irritability with no reason. And what I've noticed a lot is the people who do lying, for some reason, they will start blaming the other person for things that they might not even, they don't know, but there will be a blame there. Because, yes, maybe the person is lying, but it doesn't mean they are easy with that. A lot of people, while they're lying, they're going through a lot of feelings of guilt.
They're suffering.
They're suffering because they have to balance that kind of secret and also what's happening with my life. So, then people can go through a depression as well when they're going through that. You know, so low mood swings can actually be signs. Because, as I said, doesn't mean that the other person can be very happy and everything is fine. But also you can have the other aspect that people could actually become suddenly very nice and do many things so as to hide that lying.
There's a lot of deception there, isn't there?
Yeah, it could be a deception, yeah.
Sounds like too much effort.
Doesn't it?
I'm just listening. It's like, I don't know if I could be bothered to, because a relationship is working in the fact that you've got to invest and, you're helping to make someone else happy, as well as yourself, and, focusing on what you can do to keep that relationship alive. So adding the lying on top of it and the deception, I'm like, that's too much.
In your opinion, and of course with the experience you have, how important is trust in a relationship?
Very important. I mean, people would say love conquers all, isn't it? What usually they say. And yes, love can can help two people go through difficult times. But I think trust is what actually keeps everything together. Love is actually built on trust. And why is it so important is because I think trust involves some elements which are vital for a healthy relationship. One of them is reliability. So, if how reliable you think your partner is and how much of your faith you can put on them, it's very important so as to feel secure and work on the relationship. Another aspect is predictability. It's so funny because people say predictability can be too boring, but actually that sense of somebody being consistent through their actions, through their behaviors, it's what makes a healthy relationship, somebody to feel the trust in the relationship. Loyalty is another element of trust, which is very important, like to know that through difficult times, if I show the bad aspects of myself, the person will still be there and not give up on me. Honesty, the topic here, very, very hugely linked to trust. Commitment is another big aspect of trust, isn't it? If somebody's not sure whether they want to be in the relationship or about the future of the relationship, then, that will make the relationship not secure, not a lot of trust there. And something that I think is very important is about shared boundaries. It's that common understanding of the values of two people so as to build up the trust. So, for example, if somebody thinks that if I go out and I flirt, it's fine, I don't think it's a big issue, but the partner thinks, actually, if you flirt, it's a big issue, then there will always be a point of collusion in the relationship of the conflict. So I think trust also is very important because of these elements, but also it's very important to be built upon between two people so as they share their own understanding of their values, their boundaries, and their beliefs.
Like what you said that relationships like a dance, but we probably step on each other's toes all the time because this is so complicated, everything you're saying here.
It is, it takes two people, it's a dance, but also, yes, you can step on each other, but you have to step on each other to learn how not to step on each other, and sometimes, tango has one person leading, but also it's not for me only one person leading, it's two people leading, but it has so many. Even tango has its own aspect of, if somebody, for example, leads the other person has to be able to feel, to listen, the moves, otherwise the dance. So perhaps aspects of listening, of understanding the other is kind of what I like to see tango as kind of the metaphor of the relationship aspect.
I love that as a metaphor.
It made us understand better, isn't it?
Yeah. So considering all the things that we've spoken about then, about trust and lying and deception, what kind of tips or what could you offer somebody who has been cheated on, who their trust has been broken in that relationship? How can they recover from that and learn to trust again?
Well, it will take some time. I mean, also we have to think about the values between two people. For somebody, being cheated might not be as important or so much of might not have such a huge effect on them, so they might recover much easier. But for somebody, that cheating could be a break of all the rules, could take so much more time. But, no matter what, there is a loss there, a loss of trust. And like any other loss, there has to be a grieving process. And a grieving process does take time. So what I would suggest, a person that goes through that grieving process has a space to talk about, to deal with that pain, to deal with that loss. Because sometimes what happens is, in a relationship, when the person feels betrayed, will try to ask the other person what happened, all the details, takes kind of the detective role. But for the person that actually did that, cheated, it's very difficult to go back to that place because they avoid that. Yeah. So they're already in two different paces. So, that at that point, the person actually that goes through that grieving process has to have a space to talk about. And therapy, I think, is a very, very important aspect, that safe space that can be listened and go through that pain. But at the end of the day, I think what really is important is that to recover and trust again is a choice. It's an individual choice. And, I have, for example, clients that have been through this kind of situations and they've decided to forgive their partners. And that didn't mean that the moment that they decided to forgive their partners, they decide trust came back. Yeah. But the idea that I'm ready to start forgiving can help a person to start trusting. But again, it's an example, and it always based on the individual and the individual choice, I think.
Thank you so much for that. We have come to the end of the time has just run away, but I think you've given a lot of helpful advice and a really great perspective. So thank you so much, Vasia.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break, but don't go away because there'll be more about the fakers after this break.